Hi, I'm Claire.
Christy.
And Janine. We're three marketers that have spent decades in talent tech and recruitment, facing the same challenges and watching the same mistakes play out over and over again.
We started What's the Point because we're tired of the fluff, vanity marketing, and wasted budgets that never drive real growth.
This podcast is straight talk for marketers and leaders who want marketing that actually works. No jargon, no egos, just hard-won lessons and practical advice that will help you scale your business.
Hi, and welcome to this episode of What's the Point. We're going to be talking today to a really great guest, but we're talking about community. We're talking about events and experience. Let's dive straight in. Welcome, James. How are you doing?
It's been a bit of a wild ride over the last year or two, as you know, but I am, as I believe one of your regular collaborators, Mr. Leonard, calls me, a tough chap to kill.
Yeah, now let's start with the drama. Give us a little bit of an intro as to who you are and why you think we're having this chat.
So I started, as many of us did, working with a recruiting agency straight after university, bills to pay. Went from agency land into bigger agency land and then RPO land and spent some time there. And then a sideways shift into a bit of consulting and a bit of time with startups. Built my own recruiting tech startup back in, would have been about 2009, maybe. Something around Twitter, Tweet Jobs. As most first startups do, went horribly wrong, crashed and burned. So many things went wrong with that, it was unreal. The idea was there, but not really anything else. So I went from there to another startup, Brave New Talent, who are very much into the idea of communities being the future of recruitment. Several other things took an interesting path with that operation, as I'm sure Claire remembers some of that story, and its somewhat flamboyant founder. And I moved into the world of events, helping a fledgling meetup and community series move into the world of bigger conferences. That was called Mind the Product, the event, and Product Tank was the community, which we built around the world, focused very much on technology product managers. So worked with that operation from 2012, straight the way through the pandemic. And as a conference business, we actually got, if anything, stronger through the pandemic because of our ability to switch to online content and keep that community knit together, even though we couldn't do live events. Emerging from the pandemic, the team was a little beat up by the experience, and we decided it was the right time to move on. So I then took that on the exit experience and lined up a deal with a major American buyer, which I think at the time broke a few hearts, but also gave it a strong direction and stronger foundations. So exiting that business, it was also then very clear to me that when you're running an events and media businesses, fundamentally, they are the same thing. An events business is a media business waiting to emerge. And in our particular case, we just didn't have the tooling for it. So the startup I'm working on now, Rodeo, we're currently midway through a pre-seed raise, which is going well. I'll talk about that a little more in a minute if you'd like, but building a platform for media and event businesses. But things slowed down slightly this year with a surprise diagnosis of brain tumor. So not too much fun, but as Jamie Leonard lovingly refers to me, I'm a tough chap to kill. So the last year or so has been brain surgery, hence the lovely scar up here, and then radiotherapy, chemotherapy, and then, oh no, you have regrowth. No, you don't. Our mistake. You're doing just fine. Try this instead. So it's been a bit of a ride this year.
Yeah, I think the word resilience is definitely defined by your sheer presence. So thank you for joining us. I do really want to dig into your amazing experience in terms of community because, as marketeers, we are constantly thinking of ways and strategies to get closer to our marketplace. But actually, I think you have encapsulated so much proximity to not just your marketplace, but also all of the people that belong in that workspace and working towards that
Mhm.
kind of final delivery as well. And then now as well with Rodeo, having heard the story about what Rodeo is going to be and kind of come into market to do, very excited about that as an operating platform for events, because actually,
Yes.
technically, we haven't got a
Oh.
fun, an in-person events platform to hand. Like I've not seen anything over the years, and again,
I
dabbling
mean,
around the events like you do, it's going to be a
look,
game
look,
changer.
let's take a real simple question. The two biggest tech platforms used for events in tech landscapes are either Meetup for small informal community events or Eventbrite
Yeah.
for ticketing.
Yeah,
Have you seen either change since the pandemic?
not a
No.
sausage.
No.
No development
Have you
at all.
seen either? Have you seen either change since the explosion of AI?
No.
No.
Although, actually, no, I did run
What?
an
What?
Eventbrite one, and that gave me a little bit of AI to kind of curate my outbound emails to the guests.
That's
Okay.
marketing.
So
That's not
again,
actually
That's
the
not the event
platform, is
running
it?
bit.
No,
That's
That's the
so
product.
yeah,
yeah.
they're so far behind the curve.
Yeah.
It's unreal, and the UX on those things is so special.
Yeah, I'd say
They are so
painful.
far behind the times. It's unreal.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, and the
Yeah.
only other one that I've been using of late was Luma. I don't know if anybody's had experience of
tried
that
it.
one, but
Yeah.
again, from a
It's
digital,
better,
it's better, but
but it's still limited.
it's very limited to that digital kind of event
Yeah.
capability. And again, for me, it
Fundamentally,
seems like ticketing all over again.
almost all of these things were run by somebody who once decided to do an event and then discarded ticketing platforms were all crap. So they built another ticketing platform. None of them were ever built by anybody who's got any experience of actually running a goddamn event.
So
That's the difference with what we're building here at Rodeo.
tell me the difference then in terms of your definition around the difference between an event and community. Because again, you've done both really well. Mind the Product as an event for a community, and then also as well, really kind of all of the events that we've been around.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, the crossover is obviously very, very strong. If you look at the tech recruiting space in the UK, for example, I would say there are a series of flagship events that exist, but there's also a strong community of people who meet up regularly at those events and learn with one another and share war stories.
Yep. Yeah.
So the differentiator is often community is often more open conversations and a gentler style of more vulnerable learning. But often you find that those communities emerge out of events that have been well run and as a result attract a good audience, and those people then bond and continue the conversations. Events require management. Community is so often more organic. What it requires is, to a certain extent, guidance rather than management. The moment you tell a community where it's going to go is the moment it's going to stick two fingers up at you.
No, that is.
And is that where it's gone wrong so far? Like we think of community in a marketing sense. We think of it in terms of, and in a recruitment marketing sense of your candidate pools, your client pools. You maybe see it a lot in the executive search space that they will bring leaders together for round tables.
But is that community?
Is that community? Well, I think they want it to be community.
Yeah,
but
but
and
I
I guess that
think
goes
they
back to my
want it to
question:
be
where do they go
community.
wrong? Where do they go wrong on it?
Yeah. Oftentimes you continue to do those things and drive based on the things that you know deliver commercial outcomes for the management team, but they're not necessarily the same as community outcomes for the attendees. Now, where you can nail it is if you actually get both. So the mix with Mind the Product was to say, we run these free meetups and you can come and join and meet with your colleagues and chit chat and learn from the occasional guest speaker. But in order to support the team behind this, once or twice a year, we'll do a major kick-ass conference. And it will be premium priced. But if you've enjoyed the meetups and those are the people who you actually want to hear from when they're really getting up on stage and delivering something professional, buy a ticket to the conference. That then allows us to support what's happening with the meetups the rest of the year round.
Yeah, the marketing meetup do that really well. I think they have a strong community feel.
This is
exactly
Joe
that.
Glover's crew, isn't it?
Yeah, it is really well. It's a really nice.
Oh,
Their purpose and everything
Joe
built
knows.
around it.
when Joe was just getting going with that, he and I spent a couple of hours over lunch in London, and I talked him through what man the product had built and how we'd done that. So, how much of that story he took and baked into the marketing meetup, I don't know, but I certainly see some hallmarks.
Yeah,
No,
it
that's
sounds just like that. The meetups weekly almost, I think, by series. They're
Yeah,
free and they
building
get
the audience
hundreds
and discovering.
globally,
Yeah,
but
you're
then they do their big
building the
conference
audience.
now. Yeah.
Yeah, you're building brand trust. You're also discovering new speakers because it's easier for somebody to get up and meet up in front of 150 people than it is for them to get up in front of a conference of 4,000 people. So you're discovering new talent constantly and taking on the journey.
Yeah, and even thinking about it out loud now, what they've learned is the positive nature and that they've deliberately curated that positivity of the
Yep.
community. They've then learned to bring that into conference. So it comes, yes, I'm no doubt with a bit of revenue goal, but also with the real intention of bringing people into a safe space where they can add value.
Yep.
Is there a trade-off between learning and community kind of engagement and that commercial reality? Like for anybody thinking about events or thinking about experience, is that can you have both? Can you have an experience and
Well,
commercial reality?
Clearly.
Yeah.
but can you?
Yeah.
So to play the devil's advocate on it, in today's economy, marketing budget, so whatever you want to put your events community budget to it, they're stretched. They're stretched. So how do you demonstrate the ROI? How do you wrap around? You mentioned it, James, the commercial, but also most of the businesses we're talking about here, they're not events companies. They are, at the end of the day, they are recruitment agencies, or or whatever, some
Tech
business
businesses,
that
yeah.
has some end commercial goal to it. How do you
Yeah.
wrap around the commercial? And actually, even let me put this in a bit of a context. I know a business that is running this incredible event. They get, I won't mention the industry, it's very niche, but incredible. They are known for this event.
Yeah.
They get the most nichest community come out. Everybody thinks they're an events company. They actually don't even know they're a recruitment agency, and they spend mega money on this. Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah. Amazing.
But in
Missed the ultimate goal
yeah.
with it. No follow-up, no preview. That's
So
a
they're
brand
not actually
affiliation.
thinking about the event as their one event in the year where they can literally go business development till the hours.
Well, they think of it like that, but there's
They
300
don't.
people there, and the 300 people, they don't speak to all 300,
But the
and they
300
see the
people.
logo on it, and they do not recognize that logo is a recruitment company. They think it's an events company.
Oh wow.
Well, they're working with us now, and we're going to change that.
Yeah, I was
Yeah.
just going to
So-
say.
but that's the problem, though, is that there still needs to be a commercial thread that pulls through this, or else you're just putting money, unless you're getting advertisers and turning into a proper or sponsorship and turning
A
it,
revenue driver by itself.
yeah, for itself.
Yeah.
And
You're in a
that's
funny
part of the
place.
problem. I mean, that's part of the problem with most of the platforms that run this stuff. Whether you're talking about Meetup or Eventbrite, they're taking a slice of ticket sales, and that goes back off to Silicon Valley and is never seen again. Or you're running it on things like Facebook or LinkedIn, and again, the revenue and the data disappear off back to Silicon Valley,
Yeah.
and it's never seen by the organizers again. This is one of the fundamental things we want to change with Rodeo, which is we're going to use that data in the same way that everybody else does. And then we're going to revenue share it with the organizers that bring these things together. That not only generates revenue that currently disappears up the road to Silicon Valley, we actually keep some of that revenue here and give it revenue share with the organizers who allow us to build that data center. And that also ties in well with, I think, what are two of the biggest problems facing the internet right now. And that is simply whether it's believable. So I'm looking at a video screen right now, but is that Claire or is that a deep fake?
Well, it could quite easily be.
Yeah.
To be honest.
Yeah. When you turn up on any site, am I chatting to a person or an AI bot?
Yeah. But at least in the room.
Yeah.
The lack of faith, the lack of trust in both people and content on the internet is rising rapidly.
I think it's going to get
Events
worse as well. I mean,
Oh,
and
absolutely.
also
It absolutely
from
is.
You mentioned it earlier on, James, the sort of the publishing element of content from events, because
Yep.
it's authentic, it's original. You'd hope that someone gets up on stage and talks, for the first time
Yep.
about it, whether they're scripted or they're practiced. It is literally being delivered to an audience, hopefully for the first time.
Yep. You turned up at the event, you checked in person,
Yeah.
you were validated as a human.
Yeah.
And then when you're uploading and sharing content, this content was uploaded by Claire. She was digitally checked into the event and geophysically present at the right location. You can trust this.
Right.
So
like
Rodeo
that.
is very much about team human.
I think also as well, like that, you touched on the sort of security piece, but there is so much legislation, regulations right now around the use of AI within technology, within the businesses that I'm working with. That, how they wrap AI into supporting or kind of enabling that technology to do its job. But what we're also not really thinking about, or not, I don't think, conscious of, is actually how do we repurpose that content through marketing channels. And obviously we've got, AI has been used in marketing
for a while now.
For a while now in terms of content production.
Not brand new.
But that kind of mushroom cloud that's coming is, I think, going to kind of almost stop companies in their tracks.
The internet
and actually
of slop.
it will just be too much noise. And actually, to your point, James, how can then your audience trust that it's authentic and it's real and it's information that they need to consume?
And AI
mentioned
is
to you earlier that-
exacerbating it. Sorry, go on, James.
I mentioned earlier I had a Sam Altman quote for you.
Oh, yeah.
And I think now that we're on the AI topic, it's perfect time to drop this one in. Sam said on a recent interview, for those who don't know, Sam Altman, founder of OpenAI ChatGPT. Sam said, I think there's going to be a real premium on human-to-human in-person experiences. I don't know what we'll call them, but I see that being a very huge category. I think they're called events, Sam.
For smart people, that's kind of like, yeah. Obviously, it's events.
Yeah, that's very much where we've, where Mind the Product was always focused, was bringing those people together in the room to share experiences, to share war stories. I mean, the first ever meetup that I attended, I saw a lady standing on her own at the back. I said, just checked in. You okay? Have you found everything you need? And she said, yeah. I've just realised after about half an hour of being in this room and talking to these people, this has been like therapy. And it was just a meetup of digital product managers talking about the struggles they had in their day job.
Yeah. Well, that's why we set this up, isn't it? There's a part therapy element to this podcast.
Definite therapy, I think, for the three of us.
James,
absolutely.
What, not to do the pre-COVID, post-COVID kind of line in the sand, but what's your take on it has changed? There is more remote working. There are more, this kind of expectation that your personal life needs to fit in around. Here's an example. My husband's going to an event for the women in manufacturing. It's a daytime event tomorrow. It's a lunch. And he said, well, that's weird, isn't it? I said, no, because it is known that women cannot do, I'm generalizing, but cannot do the evening, cannot do all the evening events. All of that's going on right now, all the noise in the greater kind of universe, business community universe. What are the trends? What's changed? And are they, I'm answering the question, but are they yearning for more connection than before because we're in this AI digital screen world that we're in?
100%. Yeah. Every event I've been to in the last year or two, and I have been traveling a little less for health reasons, but every event I've been to, it's been the roundtables and the networking rooms that have been absolutely buzzing. If anything, the attention to the keynote stages and the keynote speakers has been dipping off a little bit because every good speaker who gave good content put it all online during COVID anyway. I can watch whoever the hell I want tell their best stories from the comfort of my pajamas with a cup of tea. I don't need to travel halfway across the planet for that. The best stories come to me.
Yeah.
So it's the community that we go for, not just the content. You can get any content you like anywhere now.
It is. It's not just the people in the room, is it? It's also what they share inside the room. That's the
And I think
it's
that's
creating
where
that atmosphere.
that value exchange piece. And again, kind of always thinking about, is there a return on this? How can you, I mean, even the events that we've been to recently, kind of going out of the office, whatever that office is, but meeting up, spending a day, traveling trains. You do it because you
Mhm.
know that you're going to have 20, 30, 40 conversations a day that are just a quick, hey, how you doing? And, how's things? But then there's the listening part. Then there's the sort of post-event kind of hangout. And you might have
Mhm.
meetings set up, but actually the people that you are with for the sort of longer periods of time, that's the nourishing content and, the need to be around your people, right? So
Yeah.
that for me is more of a value sometimes than actually
Yeah.
sitting down one to one and having just one meeting with
Yeah.
one
Mm.
person.
And I think that's part of the point, isn't it? That you're making post-COVID. There's a lot more working from home, hybrid, and people do need a bit more connection, perhaps
Mm.
than they did pre-COVID, when
Absolutely.
you're around the water cooler, to use that awful phrase.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
maybe that's the point, is that it is, you almost create these like gold star, but these pinnacle events, versus, because you don't get the 5 days of that interaction. It
Yeah.
makes them that much more of a destination to go to, because it gets your fix. It gets your fix for
Yeah.
a few weeks or a couple months, whatever it might be.
Because
So-
I think roundtables have always worked. Like,
Yeah.
we've all been doing this for way too long, and roundtables as a concept have always worked.
Yeah.
But now somehow I do feel they're a bit more powerful because of that, probably because of that.
That human to
Bringing
human.
peers usually, right, together in a way that they don't get to do now.
Yeah. And I think also as well, it's that, I don't know, certainly I felt it from a personal perspective, knowing what I know, but not having validation that I know what I know. That makes any sense? Like literally the leveling up of knowledge, of understanding, of where I'm at in my career, or even just the knowledge of the industry that I have. All of those only actually, because obviously I don't sit there and talk to myself a lot, but yeah, there could be people that do. But it's about having that kind of perspective and that validation of actually, is my knowledge current? Am I still being relevant? Am I still talking, in the right space to the
Well,
right
if you're
people?
only doing it online, you're in an echo chamber, aren't you?
Yes,
It serves
exactly
you up
that.
something. There's a reason this is all happening around the world right now.
Yeah.
And people are so convinced
Yeah.
that their way is the right way and is what everybody else thinks. That's all they hear. That's
Yeah.
all they hear. So you need to get into these more diverse and diversity in a true sense, but just diversity of thought, even if
Yeah.
it's not by, I'm not talking about,
No,
diversity
just
To be
targets.
challenged in terms of
Yeah,
what you think
exactly,
and
exactly.
why you're doing, or you're kind of planning to do something in a certain way. I
And
think
also to learn,
Yeah.
right? Like that, the same as everybody else that we're inviting to these events as marketers.
yeah,
One of my objectives is always to learn. I
Learn
don't
from
think
them,
we
yeah.
are ever stopped. We know a lot, we've done a lot, but there's always something new to learn and a different perspective to think about.
Tell us, James, a little bit more about your founder story, because obviously, I mean, besides the fact that you've dealt with probably the most humongous personal challenge, setting up Rodeo in, this level of technical innovation. AI has obviously been baked all the way through the platform, and you're really considerate of your end goal. And I think that's what I really like about this as a proposition, is that it's tech built for purpose, but with such a real human consideration.
Oh, let's go further than that. This is tech built for social
Go on.
impact. This is tech built for genuine social impact on two fronts. Number one, communities are the fabric of society. As the Surgeon General said not that long ago, we are living through an epidemic of loneliness and isolation. Bringing communities together, whether it's grassroots football or recruiters who want to get together and drink and share war stories, whatever it might be, that's the fabric of society. But you get platforms out there that aren't fit for purpose in the current day and age, and they charge fees, as opposed to everybody else on the internet that's scraping that data and then running away with the profits. Well, where's the middle ground? the company that provides the platform that you can use to bring these communities together does mind the data a little bit, but then also shares some of those rewards back with the community to make them more sustainable. So that's where we're aiming on that front. The other one that we're taking aim at is, if you look at the way the world aligns, it is more polarized than ever. Alison Goldsworthy has done some wonderful research on this recently, a book around polarization. It's because people feel emboldened to yell at one another from behind keyboards.
Yeah.
You've seen some debates on Facebook that have gotten unpleasant, I'm sure.
Yes.
Would those same debates have happened if those people had been in a room together?
No.
No.
Albeit I also
You
would argue
debate
that
one and
people's interactions have shifted a little bit, that I think maybe not quite as emblazoned and boldened as they do in a keyboard, but
Yeah.
I think actually
Probably because of
Absolutely.
the keyboard.
yeah,
you not
probably
think?
exactly.
They
Decorum
feel
has
pretty,
changed.
yeah, they have actually, it's dropped. I think you're absolutely right. That etiquette that we would have
Yeah.
about being in a social context, being together, you'd watch yourself, you'd watch your language, you'd watch your
Absolutely.
behaviors.
Absolutely.
You know, I still need to
Yeah, but-
watch my hands because they fly around all the time, whether I'm on my own or with people. So I still need
I'm
to
with you on that
kind of
one.
watch that. But I think,
Yeah.
I think there is that element of etiquette has now, I don't know, I feel like we've lost something along the way.
Absolutely.
Is it possible to get it back? Is that what the sort of next generation of community needs to be about?
I don't know. It's redefined. I think it's redefined.
I don't think it can go back.
I don't know, because I think we're talking about new generations. We're talking about people who've never been in those settings. You know, I remember, I don't want to out her, but I had somebody on my team go to an awards event who she'd never worked in an office before, and she got to the awards event and she says, "I'm not appropriately dressed," and she didn't go in. You know, she wouldn't go in because she was so nervous. It overcame her.
Yeah.
And she had to leave. And you know what? Maybe this generation is missing something. Maybe they don't feel they're missing something anyway. But are we actually giving them the tools and that guidance and the mentorship to bring them to this place, which is the place we know and love, but is it the right place? You know, I'm now talking very existentially. But
No, that's a good point, actually. And does it need to be the same? You know, do we really need that?
We all need human connection, right? That's
we need
what
that,
I
but
worry
do we
about
need
for the
it at
next.
the decorum,
the etiquette, the dress codes, the kind of like, you know,
Well,
the
for me, that's another one
traditional
of these.
events.
Just another reason why to me, this fabric of professionally minded community meetups is so important. Because you get people who are not your peers at the office, so you're not on guard like you're in a meeting with management, but they are other people from within your profession. You can share war stories, you can learn what's expected, you can develop, you can model the behaviors that you're seeing from elders in your industry.
Yeah. And I think that's
it's a level of personal depend.
I think the next
It's a level of
generation,
personal development that people don't get when they're working remote the whole time.
Exactly. And that's what worries me about the people now coming through. There's been so much remote. And we know there's a reliance, much bigger reliance on devices. I mean, I didn't have a mobile phone coming into the workforce necessarily. So, you know, that by nature makes you more lonely, makes you more solitary. So I think there is even more of a need, and maybe that's where the decorum and all of that professionalism, for want of a better word, comes back, because there's more curated opportunities, as you say, James, for people to meet, peers to meet up.
So in terms of purpose then, are we saying, obviously I think we're all absolutely 100% agreed, events, experience needs to be on the strategic agenda for every organisation.
Societal agenda.
I think so, actually. Yeah, that's a really good point.
Yeah.
You know, let's make it not just about doing business. Let's make it about being great humans. And actually that interaction with other humans is essential.
Yeah.
And then
exactly that.
How do we kind of treat that in the business context? How do we treat that in our language as founders, as advisors? How do we culturally keep that in mind when we're thinking about growth, we're thinking about business? Big question, but
You know what? I think maybe one of the benefits. So here's the good the bright side story of all this. I actually think a lot of the business leaders um, would prioritize it. I think there needs to be a financial return. I think budgets are still stretched, but when I mention events to my clients, they're like, "Well, that's a no-brainer. That's
Yeah,
a no-brainer. We're going
I'd
to do
agree.
that."
Yeah.
And then you say, "Okay, well, we'll still budget it out. This is what it'll cost. This is this. Oh yeah, that's a no-brainer. To
Yeah.
get those 15 people in a room, that's a no-brainer." So I think that
Yeah,
that's maybe the silver lining. I think deep down, people still business leadership still values it and
Yeah.
still wants to prioritize it.
And can see that immediate kind of connotation. But I think I worry about the isolation of one-offs because again, this is the thing that we're really good at. Great ideas, all comes together, but then you're shooting in the dark and there's no follow-up. And then you kind of like 2-3
yeah,
weeks after the event, everything's forgotten.
Oh yeah, well,
You-
this is it because it's treated in isolation.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
need that wrap around. You
And
Yeah.
need to do
yeah.
well, this,
something with
It
it.
needs to be a channel, doesn't it? So it has an objective and it's a
and
delivery
this is
method.
where I mean, this is for us is where events and media come together. So not only help you organise the event, get the tickets, get the RSVPs, get the sponsors in there, and then from a sponsor's perspective, they're starting to learn more about what people are truly interested in by the sessions that they choose to attend.
Mm.
Likewise, we then grab the media that our speakers and our sponsors are preparing, and we can say, okay, here's this raft of media that you can then continue to learn from, you continue to engage around, but also we can use that to re-enrich our data profiles, which is data that we can use to make Rodeo more sustainable, give some of that revenue back to the community organisers who do the heavy lifting. But also, we can say to you, with the way that we track the data on Rodeo, we can see which meetups you've attended, which videos you've watched. How would you like us to build you a skill set that shows what you've learned from in the last 12 months rather than LinkedIn's list of shit I never want to do again?
Nice.
Yeah.
No, that
Like
sounds,
that.
yeah. And again, that sort of purpose-led personal and professional growth tied
Yeah,
into all of the experiences or events that you've attended. How brilliant. And even from an employer's perspective, like we talk about employer brand kind of as another channel, as another separate thing, but actually, how about recognizing that meetups, events, professional development can come from being in a room with your peers, and that learning and
yeah.
development actually is expedited, and it's actually much stickier, I think, in terms of
I mean,
learning
we
from
have
someone that you can share a job title with rather
uh,
than sharing an office space
Yeah.
with.
as I said, my previous business was an events business, mind the product with the product tank meetups. And I would regularly see job specs coming across my desk for digital product managers in London. On the bottom there, should be an active member of the product tank community.
Nice.
That's
Yeah.
employers starting to recognize what extracurricular learning actually looks like.
Yeah.
And I think that's the other thing that we should almost sort of trumpet is that if actually that was part of the cultural professional development plan for all of
Mm.
our clients, all of the people that we work with, then career paths
And
and
for the
also
consultants
trajectory.
themselves, right? The
Yes.
learning they can get from their peer
Yep.
groups and the improvements they can make because they don't, we know that they're not getting that same osmosis learning
Mm.
in an office space anymore. So there's a huge opportunity, surely, for them, you to improve the skill set of your
Fundamental.
consultants.
Relationship development.
Yeah.
Like
Right.
how much easier is it to develop your relationship capabilities if you're in a room with other
Yeah.
people and having that chat?
I'd like to switch gears just for one sec because there's some really this community piece, James. You have an incredible career journey CV. And I don't doubt that someone who literally has been in the people business in every sense of the word, that community must have played a role in your journey. And where I'm going to correlate this with is the fact that a lot of people who are watching this today, um, different industries, different businesses, but leaders like you and probably want to learn from you. And I'm sure many will want to exit as you did. Where has community played into your role and what advice do you have for those who might be listening in?
When I first got into the tech events business, I made it my business to start attending other events that weren't purely tech. Let's go to this one for finance directors and see what they do differently that we might learn from and take back to the tech world. So it was about stepping out of my zone a little bit and learning from events in other industries. Um, and then the same was a similar related was just showing up and asking better questions. The main reason people go to events is because they want to talk to their peers.
Yeah.
So think about, who am I going to meet? How much social energy do I need to take with me? And are there particular questions that are bugging me right now that I might find unexpected answers to?
Your social energy point
It's not
is a
that.
really good one as well, isn't it? It's allowing, there are people and, personality types that need to warm up to an event, but also to have downtime after
Yeah.
an event. And, it's
Yeah.
it's working that ability around. And to your point about,
Yeah.
telling people what they've been learning and what what have they done over a year, I think that's incredibly powerful.
I learned a new word around that in
Did
terms of
you?
personality types, actually a couple of weeks ago, and I'll tell you about the backstory later. But the word was ambivert, and I
Ambivert.
thought,
You can
and
be
you know,
incredibly-
Guilty
obviously,
as charged.
yeah.
Are
So
you?
Guilty.
I had never even considered that.
Yeah.
I mean, I can be quite jazz hands, but I do then really register that I have a total downtime and enough. I need to go and decompress
Yeah.
for a couple of
This
hours
is
if I've been.
if you do Myers-Briggs, that's one of the kind of core pieces that somebody could be considered an extrovert.
Yeah.
But they still need to recharge themselves. They're not, they get
They're not always on.
they're not
Yeah.
always on. Even people who you think like, well, they must be an extrovert because they're
Yeah.
out there. They're their energy, but they've put all their energy in, and then they need to kind of
Rebuild.
to
Yeah.
recharge it.
I think definitely through sort of the years, I was very, very much more extrovert for a longer period of time. But now I see that
Yeah.
I have that balance of, I can do, maybe 1 or 2 days out a month
Maybe.
and then need to sit back and really kind of calibrate and really assess. And I think for me and my own edification of all of the knowledge, all of the people, all of the learning, that enables me then to kind of go again and go another step further forward.
Let me just correct what I said before. You can be an introvert but be outgoing. That's
Yeah,
actually what I
that's the
should
one,
have said.
yeah.
You could be
Yeah.
an introvert but still be,
An
the life,
extrovert
the
still
life
needs
of the party,
space.
the life of the event.
Yeah. And I
That's
think
where you get
also,
your
but
energy.
what I think is really nice about the way in which a platform can enable you to engage in an event pre and also contribute and then take that content but learn it but not be not having to rebroadcast everything. You could still be a very shy person, introvert,
Introverted.
and still be really, really valuable participant in an experience, an event. And, it's not all about kind of being all jazz hands and being out front at these sorts of things. Experience is made up of everybody's perspective, I think. And that's what's really good about events.
How does being an ambivert show up for you, James?
Just by complete exhaustion after a major event, I'm socially wiped out for a day or two.
Yeah.
But it's also hard to know.
Especially now.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
it's hard to know now what aspect of that has always been baked in and part of my personality versus what aspect of that is actually a result of brain surgery and radiotherapy.
Yeah.
Because that
absolutely.
undoubtedly takes its toll as well. You
Yeah.
notice certain personality changes after going through a thing like that. It's like my levels of social energy are not quite what they used to be.
No, but I think,
Understandably.
years ago when we'd hang out, we'd do the true events and we kind of have that sort of bigger party. It was such a social occasion and the learning was peer to peer and actually those sorts of events. And, thanks to Bill Borman for putting that together and bringing a community like us together. It was kind of almost like all of the people weren't there just because they did a specific job. It was because of the interest in that community and learning from all spaces, I suppose. But yeah, that kind of level of, oh right, we've done that now. It's like, okay, that was yesterday. Today I'm going to take it easy on myself and have another cup of tea. And
Wise words, wise words.
So what does community look like moving forward then? Obviously we've got Rodeo coming out very soon, we all hope. And also, we've got the AI age we're now very firmly kind of in sync with, whether we're adapting or using it or not. But how do we ensure that community stays top of mind as we plow into the new year?
They are always going to require a certain amount of investment and underpinning to make them feasible in an era where literally every bit of investment is under scrutiny. So the core has to be a wider recognition of what value does community bring.
Yeah.
Does it support mental health? Does it support learning either from your peers or about your customer? What benefits does community deliver? Once you're able to identify that and put it into the kind of framing that management recognizes the value, then you start to make some progress. And that value can take many forms.
Yeah. I'm building a community platform at the minute for one of my clients, and they have the community just based on what they do and how they do it. They're not a recruiter, but they don't bring them together exactly as you said, to be able to learn, ask questions, etc. So building this platform initially, it's not events based, and that's one of the things we've asked ourselves: how can we create something within this community that will allow knowledge in there that they won't find elsewhere, that will allow questions to be answered that couldn't be answered elsewhere, and that's because in order to bring these people in, we're going to have to create that value. And where can we make sure that that's exclusive within this platform? So I think you've got to, I think even more than ever, it's the same conversation we have over and over again, isn't it? But the quick win of a webinar over and above the build of a intentional value add community that will help your brand, that will all of those things, and has clear objectives for it. They're very different things. While you can have a quick webinar within the longer term piece, but I think it's the objective. It's come back to that. What are we trying to do this for?
So I'm part of a similar go-to-market leaders community like James, and I think the one thing that I've seen work brilliantly is that it's the cadence of coming together on an event, whether it's a Zoom meetup or if it's just a kind of, we'll get together in person down the pub or whatever it might be. But it's that regularity of coming together and answering a question that could be common across that group of people. And I think that sparked so much really good internal discussion. I think there's, probably a couple of hundred people now on this channel, but still you're learning from real experts in that space. You're learning from people who have done this a couple of times now, and they're willing to share their knowledge and their kind of experience in the job, which makes it so much easier to kind of interact with and kind of question and pull. But again, it's because weekly we know that that's a fixed thing in the diary. So actually, if there is conversation bubbling all the way through the week, which is great, but actually we can get together and answer in much more depth once a fortnight, once a week, whatever that cadence might be.
One of the things that I'm very conscious of with the product events that we used to run is people come to me regularly to say, I want to speak at one of your events, but I don't really feel like I've got a story to tell yet that's worth it. Yes, you do. Just think for a moment about a time when stuff went wrong and how you got it back on track.
Yeah.
Everybody who's been in a job for more than a couple of years has that story in them somewhere. Start there.
That in the first couple
it shows
of days.
humility. It shows humility, and it shares learning with the audience who have probably been there too, and now they feel some empathy for you, and they're learning from your mistakes. And don't we all feel better now?
Yeah.
The cheapest mistakes to learn from are someone else's.
That's such a good point.
It kind of feels like that's the point, isn't it? I mean, let's just maybe wrap it up there. James, in quick summary, what's the point of community?
Learning from other people's mistakes and getting peer therapy without the cost of an actual therapist.
Love that.
And that's a very good cost-efficient way of doing things,
isn't it?
Isn't it?
Yeah. So what we're doing now is, I built my last business on a mix of MailChimp and Meetup and Eventbrite and WordPress. It was a goddamn mess. We had about 500,000 people in the community across 220 cities around the world, and absolutely zero in the way of a unified database of where those people were, how often they showed up, whether they bought tickets to things or whether they got tickets and didn't show up, which bits of content they were most interested. So that's the platform that I'm building right now. And since we're talking to recruitment marketing as well, we're taking in some early stage checks right now. One just came in from one of the UK's biggest employers, talent acquisition director. They see the value of the data set that we're building. They would very much like to play a part in that and also see exactly how that might turn out in future. So we've raised an investment check from them. Likewise, a couple of agencies with business in the US and Europe. We have an engineering leader from Facebook who's put in a personal check to say, I very much see where you're going. I saw what you built before. I'm into this. Let's get me involved. So the raft of checks that we have at the moment in this pre-seed raise, the other main contributor are actually event organisers themselves. I've taken them on a walk through what it is we're trying to build here, and I do discovery interviews with them to say, what problems do you have? What might be solved for you? Classic product management, learn about your customers, understand what you can solve, shape a solution that actually solves real problems. Those calls, as often as not, I've ended with them saying, could I give you an angel investor check to help you go a little faster? This solves every problem we have.
That's amazing. Yeah. Well, James, this has been an absolute pleasure to chat to you and very excited to get our hands on Rodeo. So can you give us a shout as soon as it's out, please? Really loved having you on What's the Point. James Mays, thank you very much.
Claire Bush, it's been my pleasure.